everyone, welcome back to my channel, What Cass Read. Today I'm going to bring you my top 5 favorite books that I read this winter. I had wanted to do it last year and then I forgot about it. And then the end of the year, like, book lists were all coming out, so I spent my time mostly in December doing all those like best worst book awards kinds of videos. So I wanted to take a closer look this year each season and see what were some of my favorite reads. So for what I mean by winter, I'm talking about the books that I read in December, January, and February. These really aren't in any particular order, but this is the most recent 5-star read that I have encountered. This is Strange the Dreamer, written by Laini Taylor. This was my first encounter with Laini Taylor's writing, and it was gorgeous. It's been a while since I've encountered like super prosy, flowery writing that I actually got along with, because sometimes I can get really annoyed with it. But I felt like it added to the atmosphere of the book, it added to the character of Laszlo Strange. All of the language that he uses and the types of language that she uses in her writing, I felt like was really fused well together because he is, as the title says, a dreamer. And so this kind of language really added to the dreamlike quality of everything about the Lost City of Weep, of everything about Laszlo Strange. I absolutely loved it. So this book's really hard to explain without giving totally everything away, but I did recently talk about this in my February wrap-up. It's about a young man named Laszlo Strange. He is an orphan and he grew up in a monastery where he was constantly causing lots of problems for the monks because he was just so fanciful and he loved adventure and he loved all these different stories. And by some weird twist of fate, he wound up getting sent to a library, and then he just ended up staying at the library and became a librarian apprentice. He does grow up in the library into young adulthood, early manhood, and then our adventures take off from there. He's obsessed with this Lost City of Weep because he knows deep down that Weep exists, and it's kind of faded into this kind of fanciful fairy tale. He knows that Weep had a different name, but he knew that magic existed because he felt that the memory of the name of Weep kind of left him, and he's become obsessed with it ever since. He develops his own scholarly approach to it as he works in the library, and then we get to see him, you know, try and find it. So I love the writing style. At first, when I encountered Sarai and that group, I also was like, oh, I don't really like this character perspective. But then as the pieces, the two storylines came together, then I was like all about it. But at first I was like, who are these kids? And why do I care about them living in the Citadel? Let's get back to Laszlo. But then the storylines come together in a really awesome, complex, beautiful way. Then you knew I was going to talk about this one. This is Grey Sister, written by Mark Lawrence. This is the second book of the Ancestor in the Book of the Ancestor trilogy. Holy Sister, being book number 3, comes out in April, and that is my most anticipated read of the entire year of 2019. I felt like if you love Mark Lawrence and want to see something a little bit different from him, I felt like this was completely different from The Prince of Thorns, and it just gave me something that I didn't know that I wanted, and that was magical assassin nuns. Like an entirely female cast of characters and this female group of young women growing up together and the kinds of things that happen between young women when they do grow up. We don't really get to see that a lot, and I think sometimes I'm a little bit critical of male authors and how they write female characters. Mark Lawrence did an amazing job with that, so this was also a 5-star read. And then as far as the story goes, I feel like this whole story took on all of the pieces from Red Sister, book number 1, and then elevated it. It did not suffer from like the sophomore slump at all. This completely elevated the story in every single way, as far as magic goes, as far as the tension goes, as far as the consequences that our characters face. Loved it. I'm super, super stoked for Holy Sister, you guys. Oh, love it. So this was another 5-star read. And then the last 5-star read in this book list, because I didn't actually have that many 5-star reads as far as the winter reading went for me, which is pretty surprising. But the last 5-star read that I want to talk about is Becoming, written by Michelle Obama. I did listen to this on audiobook, which I recommend entirely. I feel like it's the only way that you can consume this book because Michelle Obama does narrate it. I just found so many pieces inside this book that really like spoke to me, really fed me as a woman of color, as a professional working woman of color, but also as someone who works with the types of students that Michelle Obama herself identified as, the kinds of things that she talks about as far as education goes. Anyone who works in education, I feel like you've got to listen to this book because it just talked about so many different things that, oh, I just felt was really powerful. And then, of course, when we transition into the presidency, I'm a person that's like kind of low-key, high-key obsessed with ceremony. And what I mean by that is, like, I don't want this to take a morbid turn, but when the last two popes died, I was glued to the television screen because I just loved the selection process of the last two popes and how that turned out, and I just knew when I was watching it that these were things and events that I would hardly ever get to see in my lifetime. Of course, royal weddings, love that. So seeing the inside look of the inauguration for Michelle Obama and the family and what goes on inside the White House, I'm just like very interested in that kind of ceremonial aspect of a lot of different things. You know, it's just one of those things. No matter what I feel politically or personally about some of these figures, I just really enjoy the ceremony behind it. Okay, this is Shadow and Bone, written by Leigh Bardugo. This was one of my 4-star reads, and I picked this book to represent the best books that I read in the wintertime because this one was probably the most surprising to me that I ended up liking it as much as I did. I was just kind of holding on to this trilogy as something to get through to get some background knowledge on the Grisha verse because I wanted to get to the Six of Crows Crooked Kingdom duology written by Leigh Bardugo, and I wanted the background knowledge. I went into this thinking this was going to be like very stereotypical YA, which it is, but I ended up liking it way more than I thought I would. And that is because, like, the friends to lovers trope, I feel, was done so well. I wasn't annoyed by it because I felt like our two characters were consistently trying to get back to one another. They were separated, trying to get back to one another because of their friendship first. And then, of course, love story blooms from there. But I loved it way more than I thought I would. This was a 4-star read. All right, and then my final book that was a 4-star read for me as well. This is Red Seas Under Red Skies, written by Scott Lynch. This is book number 2 of the Gentleman Bastard sequence. This was so close to being a 5-star, so close. But there are just certain things that I have come to expect from Locke Lamora and Jean Tannen and Scott Lynch as a writer, and I just felt like, for me, the Lies of Locke Lamora still topped this one out, but this was still a really, really, really great adventure. Remember back in the day, not so long ago, that I would tell people that I just didn't like pirate books until the Live Ship Traders trilogy. Now I've completely taken a 180-degree turn and I am in love with pirate books, and I wanted more piracy, I wanted more interaction on the ships. I didn't get my pirate council until halfway through, but it was still such a wild ride. It was really entertaining. Scott Lynch, you know, doesn't pull any punches when he gets down to it with his characters, and I just really enjoyed this one too. I'm really looking forward to The Republic of Thieves, which is book number 3, and I tag teamed this one on audiobook and the physical copy. Because I have so many physical books that I have to read right now, I may just end up reading Republic of Thieves on audio. I really enjoyed the narrator, so I might do that. You never know. Those were the top 5 books that I ended up reading this winter. I'm gonna do this for spring, summer, and fall. I just think it's like a really good way to check in on your faves and see what's happening in everybody's reading life. You can also find me on my social media if you want to talk to me there. I'm on Instagram and Twitter, whatcassread, same as this channel, all one word, super easy to find. And then, of course, my Goodreads link is always listed down below. Otherwise, you know how these videos end. Talk to you later. Bye.